Good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is Joe Scarice, founder and host of the Creative Birth Strategy House and Podcast Live. We provide education, networking, and strategy every Saturday and Sunday morning. Saturday mornings 8 a.m. and Sunday mornings 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Happy to really say that we are the only club here that has a full-blown website, podcast. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify. We're on LinkedIn. We're on YouTube, Facebook. We're live everywhere. We also our site is creativebirdstrategies.com, providing educational subject matter every Saturday and Sunday for our clients. And you can download all of our great podcasts. We're now hitting close to 50 in our podcast, which I'm really quite excited about. And I want to also always reach out and thank our our sponsors, which are MB Capital, unsecured business line of credit program, providing unsecured business lines for clients in the real estate investor space. I'd like to thank Lendmark Capital, asset-based lending group, nationwide, licensed in all 45 states. I'm a senior loan analyst there. We provide DSCR, fixed to rent, fixed to flip. Um, we offer new construction, multifamily acquisition, and value add. I'd like to thank Realty 411 with Linda Pelagas, which is a national publication for real estate investors and services, as well as national events throughout the country that we have collaborated on. We have done events with Linda in New York, LA, Florida, Philadelphia, Denver. We really have done a lot of collaborative opportunities with her. She's been a great ally and associate and sponsor of our group. And then we have uh, Perkatech, which is our social media strategist, Yordell Perkins, who's really the backbone to this entire uh, podcast, graphic work, soon to be hats, shirts, cups. We're rolling that out as well. Kind of excited about that. We just put our first order in, so you'll be seeing me on the videos if you do download the podcast with a new hat and new shirt saying Creative Birth Strategies. So pretty cool about that. We also offer educational CE for licensed real estate agents in every state in the country. Happy to say I'll be doing some CE work in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana in the fall, up and above doing some work in Connecticut, New Jersey, PA, New York, and Delaware. So that's pretty cool. I got invited out to one of those events. We offer a CE course on asset-based lending, and we're rolling out a CE course on wholesaling real estate as a real estate agent, which that's going to be very unique. We're going through the rigmarole of approvals. And then last but not least, we offer educational um, worksheets for you to better underwrite and be a better real estate investor to pencil your deals down smarter. So that's pretty much where we're starting here this morning. The discussion this morning, partnerships, the good, the bad, the horror stories in real estate. Um, we'll kind of leave it just the good and bad and the ugly horror stories. Just it doesn't always have to be a business partnership. Real estate investing can be a very lucrative endeavor, but it also comes with its fair share of challenges and risks. Some we'll try to illustrate some good, bad, and downright horror experiences for real estate investors, whether it was a partnership or just the deal itself. You know, partnerships work if everything is extremely transparent. Transparency and true communication is so important. You just can't do things, I'm sorry, on a handshake. It just doesn't work like that. And when it comes to the legalities, to the fallout of a partnership, it can cost a lot of money. It could be really, really, really bad. And I've seen some great partnerships and I've seen some really bad partnerships. So let's get started with our ladies, of course, our roses amongst the thorns. Good morning, Amy. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to the discussion. Partnerships, the good, the bad, and the horror stories in real estate. And I know you have also a membership going on to promote for the Prop Tech Council as well.
Good morning. Yes, I do. Thank you for having me in the room. I'm Amy Palvido. I am the founder and CEO of Facilimax, which is a commercial real estate data aggregation platform that provides transparency and owners into their building performance and operations. And I'm also, sorry, I'm outside. I'm also I don't know if you can hear the airplane flying over. I'm also the chair of the U.S. PropTech Council, uh, and which is the trade association for the prop tech industry, which is real estate technology in the United States. And yes, we have for those who are in real estate or real estate technology, or investors would like to invest in real estate tech. That is what that association is for. It's really just to further the industry. And it's a nonprofit trade association. So that's what the U.S. PropTech Council is. So yes, our website is proptechcouncil.com, and we offer lots of events and lots of education and lots of all the above. So there is that. And yeah, I think that's all I got. Oh, partnerships. Okay. So I've been a real estate investor since 2008. I will tell you, I've had all of the above, good, bad, and horror stories in real estate. But yes, it goes back to, your agreement really only comes into play. Truly, honestly, I've noticed the agreement only comes into play when something's going wrong, or the investors don't feel heard, or so you can, and I've been a sponsor for a long time, so I've always tried to communicate above board all the time. But even if you're communicating well, if the deal is going south, as a lot of deals are right now, what I'm hearing from a lot of people is that there are a lot of sponsors that stop talking to their investors, which is never a good sign, and it only makes things worse. So communicate would be my advice in all of these relationships. And there's going to be a lot of deals that go bad, not to the fault of the sponsor. It's just the timing. But it could be the fault of the sponsor. But I would generally think that they're a pretty good operator. There's certain things that are happening right now they just cannot overcome. So, investors need to be also educated to understand what's going on in the market and be realistic about what their expectations are, because they should shift too, and not put pressure on their sponsors for unrealistic expectations like distributions right now. I think that's just silly. Like everybody's doing capital calls at the moment, and there's investors that are asking for distributions. So it's just doesn't make a whole lick of sense. But so yeah, that's my half a nickel there, Joe.
I mean, do you think we're gonna see more fallout just because of the miscalculations of I want to call poor underwriting, but not a lot of foresight to the unforeseeable rate shift in model, and obviously the rental model is changing from a debt service perspective as well as agency perspective. Do you think some of these investors that brought in money are now kind of licking their wounds and don't know what to explain or how to explain to an investor right now that invested into their project? I mean, where do you think this is all going to go over the next 24 to 36 months? Are you going to see a lot more turnkey multifamily properties hitting the market, for closed multifamily syndication projects hitting the market? What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I think we're in this for another till 2026. I think we're in this quagmire. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I will clarify that my crystal ball is broken, so don't hold me to any of this. But I really do think until, based on what we're seeing now, until the jobs numbers, until employment increases, that's what I think everybody at the Fed is waiting for. That they really, really hurt the economy enough that there's now higher unemployment, so that they can curb inflation. They're still not curbing it. They're not going to lower interest rates. So we're stuck in this weirdo environment. And a lot of the loans that were taken out in 2021 are hitting their maturity dates. And so now everybody's stuck. They're underwater because they have to buy into the refis, even if they have the cash to buy in. right? So a lot of these smaller syndicators don't have that ability. So if you're sitting on pockets of cash, which is what a lot of people have been doing since 21, have been just sitting and waiting and biding their time and waiting for this like evidential tsunami of foreclosures and all these other things. It's just been kind of slowly creeping out there, but it hasn't hit yet. And so, I mean, really, truly, it's which is if you go back to '08 when I first started investing, that tsunami of properties really didn't come around till 2010, right? I mean, so it takes a little while for it to work itself through the market, and there's some that you pick off early, but a bunch of it was like 2 years later, and then we really didn't get out of the '08 crisis until what 2014, right, or something like that. So I think it's got a long way to go. For those who are hoping that we'll get in and out of it quickly, it's not going to happen. We're in this grossness for a little while. What I'm thankful for, though, is that yes, we're going to have foreclosures. Yes, there'll probably be new financial instruments that gives entrepreneurs, and they're going to figure out a way to solve a problem. There'll be new financial instruments that come about to kind of try to mitigate some of this stuff, and so that those can make better decisions, or maybe more bridge debt will come. I'm not sure, but I just think that there's going to be some solutions that can be offered, but some of them just can't even save. They can't even save it, so they're just going to go to foreclosure, and people are just going to have to regroup, and people are going to have to take losses. They're going to have significant haircuts in some cases, for sure.
So my take from what Amy was saying, and thank you, Amy. Some key takeaways. Okay, the most successful real estate partnership is going to outline expectations and responsibilities. Okay, for the good, bad, and the ugly. I do foresee some not so good news on multifamily, commercial office retail right now. And I do agree with Amy. The job reports and the unemployment reports are not really shedding any positive light, and they're kicking the can to get past this presidential election. Obviously, they're trying to favor it one way more than the other, and it's very apparent. And so they're trying to just kick the can so you don't really see it. I mean, if you're in the capital markets, you're in the investment space, you see it as crystal clear. Okay. While real estate investment partnerships minimize individual risk, it also limits the potential rewards for a real estate investor. A lot of people think, hey, I'll put my money parked with this very reliable person because he's out there in front of a lot of people, or she's out there in front of a lot of people. And then they put the money in and everything kind of goes silent. To me, I've never enjoyed not having full accessibility to my money in a partnership. I want to be in the forefront. I want to know what's going on. I want to be part of the underwrite. I want to be the part of the final decision making. I want to be constructing that LLC formation and partnership, have transparent conversations about the good, the bad, and ugly. I think it's extremely important. You know, and when investing in real estate, you're trying to build financial security and generational wealth. There's obviously a risk whether you buy a single family home or 100 unit. It's the same risk. It's your money, your financial participation, and you need to have the right power team. I'm not an attorney, nor am I a CPA, and I'm not here to give you direct advice. Okay, that's why you hire people. You don't go on Facebook and try to get a legal answer by self-proclaimed lawyers and CPAs. You go and retain somebody and spend the right amount of money for structure, for transparency, and for communication. Because I'm telling you, there's some really great partnerships out there because there's transparency and communication. That's sometimes half the battle. You know, identifying a power team and a partnership with diverse skills and expertise, and also access to resources, specifically money, whether it's equity, or the debt. And then obviously breaking down responsibilities are going to be very important to ultimately minimize risk. Some cons to investing in real estate with a partnership: splitting profits. Again, that could be based on who's putting what in. Conflicting ideas, personal conflict, unequal involvement, tax obligations or impact. But some tips to think about are defining clear roles and responsibilities, discussing and being very transparent to finances, legalizing the agreement with a legal team, understanding everyone's strengths and weaknesses, and choosing your partners carefully. Linda, good morning and welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning: partnerships, the good, the bad, the horror stories in real estate.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Joseph. My name is Linda Pliagas, and I'm the founder of Realty411.com. We are a news and information website, and we also produce digital and print magazines. We host in-person and virtual events. We produce webinars, podcasts, and more, all in an effort to help investors on their real estate journey. I've also been a real estate agent for over 17 years. I'm based in Southern California. Happy to be here. As far as real estate partnerships are concerned, they are a great way to purchase more property than you would be able to on your own, but you do have to be careful. First of all, be cautious with who you get into business with. Be sure that you do due diligence on everyone that you're doing business with by doing a thorough background check on your prospective partners. Do they have any judgments or current liens on their own properties? Have they claimed bankruptcy in years past? Have they ever been foreclosed upon? You need to find out all this information before you get into a marriage with someone. Because guess what, folks? In essence, a business or real estate partnership is a financial marriage. And we all know that divorce is ugly and can also be very costly. If you're going to get into a partnership with someone, I recommend you do it with people that you respect, that you admire, and most importantly, that you trust. Have a clear understanding of what your goals are in the partnership before you enter the agreement. And if someone or something doesn't seem right or something's bothering you, please speak up right away. As a partner, you have to speak up when something doesn't seem right. It's important to have open communication and complete transparency. That really is the strongest foundation to a positive partnership. And I do have a real estate partner. My husband is my real estate partner. We've clashed on deals. He's been wanting to do things one way. I've been wanting to do things another way. Sometimes we disagree on the best way to rehab or what needs to be done on a property. Definitely, you want to hear the other person's point of view and take their side into consideration. And at the end of the day, you know what? Your peace of mind is so important. Remember that no deal is worth losing your peace of mind, your marriage, your family, or your friendships, your long-term friendships. It's not worth it. So the best way is to have clear communication, clear transparency, and open and honest, communication with your partners. That is so important. Put everything in writing. I agree with Joseph. A handshake will not work. You need to put everything in writing. You need to hire an attorney to be on your side to review any contracts that you sign before you sign on the dotted line. I hope these tips have helped people. And please go to our website, realty411.com, when you can, to find out more information, tips, and strategies. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you, Linda. Please stay on mic. How was the webinar yesterday for Realty 411?
Yes, it was wonderful. We had a lot of new people, not only from the West Coast, but from around the country. Saw a lot of new faces. So, it was really positive. I think we gave some wonderful information and people were really pleased. And I look forward to having you join us on our next one as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got offered an opportunity, very unique opportunity yesterday to present and speak at a Subject 2 event in New York with the Pace Morby group. They got a huge following, and they're really growing in various markets through the country. And this event was just one. It was in a great area in New York, down near Washington Square Park. Um, but but it was just everybody was just engaged and passionate. They were really, really, really engaged to what they were trying to accomplish there that day. There was about 75 people, but I got to meet every single person. Everybody was welcoming. Everybody was open to possibilities. It was a very transformational Saturday. I mean, it was just the people, when you're at an event on a Saturday and you're meeting people, they're typically a little more engaged than the week morning or evening event. It's extremely different. And I did appreciate the opportunity to go there and speak and meet the leaders there because there's so many other events that are coming from it. But I'm sorry I missed the event, Linda. And I know you always put on some great webinars. Anything coming up that we need to be aware of and keep our eyes open for?
Yes, we will be putting together some other virtual webinars. So we'll definitely let you know about those and let everyone know about them as soon as we have them up on the calendar. In the meantime, we do have an in-person event coming up in Southern California on August the 3rd. For those of you who are near the area, we invite you to attend and we hope that you can make it. But as soon as we plan another virtual event, I'll definitely let you know, Joseph. You'll be one of the first ones that I call to schedule you in.
I really appreciate that. And from what Linda talked about, business partnerships are marriages. I mean, if you're married, you understand you signed a contractual agreement to love somebody and be part of their life and be present. Okay, not the same completely where it comes to a partnership in the LLC, but you have committed to working with somebody in success of that entity, the success of that asset. You can't lose sight of the big picture. You can't fail to plan. You have to talk to one another. You have to work through potential incompatible personalities. These are the biggest failure pieces of a partnership in real estate. How do you choose your business partner? Who's adding what resources? It needs to be defined. You need to cover your weaknesses. You need to have a division of tasks, and it has to be detailed. There has to be an accountability, whether you hire independent bookkeeper or CPA, but there has to be accountability. You need to split the risk, and it needs to be documented in that partnership documents. And you need to network together. If it's a syndication and you're trying to raise money, or it's an opportunity, a business opportunity, the transparency needs to be there. And there has to be a set role of confidence as well. Good morning, Anna. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to partnerships, the good, the bad, and horror stories in real estate.
That's a lot. Good morning. I'm guessing it's 5 to 10, so you're wrapping up. I'm coming into
No, we go.
Beginning.
We're 9:30 to 10:30 on Sundays.
Wonderful. So I didn't miss too much. Because I do love the topic, and it definitely resonates with me. And I was thinking of so many different partnerships, one in particular. So I'm a realtor here in Chester County, PA, for 11 years now, and only recently, this past year, did I joint venture with my current title company. Yet I didn't have a JV with one for, wow, that last one left me feeling all kinds of ways. I think it took me 4 years before I would re-enter into a JV with a title company, because the last one was just so horrific and shockingly. And to your point, right? I would say another partnership that we probably don't talk about and don't look at it as a partnership, because as far as contracts go and what the relationship really means, it's pretty limited or even simple, and that would be the partnership of team members, right? So as a team leader and team members, and yeah, lots of stories there, but I wouldn't even know which way to begin or go with that. But to your point, it is like a marriage. Although my husband knows how, till death do you part and what that means. But in these business relationships, I don't know. There's an expectation, or at least an assumed one, possibly, and to your point with transparency, that you do believe is going to happen and doesn't. And so all I would say is to take more time and slow to partnership and quick to resolve it and dissolve it if it's not working for you, because those partners are part of your brand and your reputation. And if it's not what you expect, and if you don't feel comfortable putting them in front of your clients, and if you're only putting them in front of your clients because of that affiliation and because of that venture, that certainly is a problematic situation as well.
Hannah, thank you. And you know what? I do agree with you. There's partnerships in the space that we work within as real estate professionals. I do have a title partnership. I have a partnership referral program with MB Capital. I offer a lending partnership referral program to others. I have an insurance relationship because of my insurance license that I have a referral program. And yeah, there could be some dropping of the balls where people just don't fulfill what you need as part of your power team. So it even has to do with power team, in the referral. I mean, listen, you're not really looking for the referral, but it's always nice because you're trying to earn each other's business from a reciprocal perspective. But there's background checks you could do to make sure that they're basically not full of shit, to be honest with you. And Amy brought up a great point, of getting verification through a CPA, but you could also go the next step. You could do a data verify and do a background check on everybody. Then it's complete transparency. You'll know everything about everybody since birth. Okay? Get that out of the way. It's not that expensive to do a background check, whether Nexus, Lexus, or Data Verify. Okay? We do them all the time. And I have extremely transparent conversations with people about their background and why, and a letter of explanation and this and that. And that is a common part to the lending space, at least. I mean, I think it should be done in partnerships anyway. Get it out of the way. know why the one person can't have a certain role because of whatever the circumstances are, but they bring operational considerations or financial considerations that far exceed the other partners. You want to know why you're going in it together, right? Or you could just go solo for that matter, right? What types of partnerships have that commonality for the success in real estate, right? It's typically money, brains, brawn. Okay, so a good GC maybe that's worth their salt and is financially set, has the resume, is not going to disappear on a third deal. Okay, there's a lot of things you need to keep that in mind. And Amy, I want to come back to you because you posted something. Any additional thoughts to what we're discussing here this morning?
I was just going to say, sometimes people don't feel comfortable saying that, but if you use a mediator like a licensed CPA, that way, that if it's part of a real estate deal, that CPA won't give you a fraudulent letter because they'll lose their license because you can sue them over it, right? So it's just a good way to have a mediator. It happens a lot in syndications where if I was a sponsor, I would provide that letter as a part of the offering memorandum to investors. Was my license, the CPA would review me and say, yep, she has no vacancy, she has no lien, she has no judgments, she has basically everything you would do in your data verification. They would just basically state as CPA. And they also would state my personal financial statement for lenders. Like they would verify it, right? So it was part for the investor and part for the lender. So it's just a good process to have for sure.
Well, the irony is when somebody doesn't tell you till you get the data verified back, and you're like, why wouldn't we have this discussion? Like why?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I don't understand why think people think it's going to just kind of scroll by.
There are a lot of, no offense, but there are a lot of dumb investors out there that just look at the deal and look at the sponsor and whatever is on their social media and don't really ask the hard questions because they're just following the crowd. I mean, we're gonna be honest. Let's be honest. I mean, that's what happens, right?
Well, yeah,
So,
I think I scratched my head.
Some of those real estate investor associations don't do their homework on people, and they can get their investors into bad spots because they're promoting somebody they shouldn't be promoting at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So,
So let's talk about some breakdowns of partnerships and thinking, Amy. There's the 50-50 partnership. There's the real equity and sweat equity. There's a formalizing the partnership to limit regrets. Maybe there's a strength or weakness that you have that the other individual brings to the table. So you need to think about how you want to structure this. If somebody has weak credit, now sometimes it comes about credit. Nobody's ever asked me, hey, Joe, I have a crappy credit. It's 660 or 640 or whatever it is. Whatever the story is, I don't really want to get concerned with it. I would just say fix your credit. But in the interim, you want to partner with somebody that has a 740 credit score. So if it's a DSCR loan, meaning a 1 through 4 or 5 through 25 under 3 million refinance or purchase of an investment property, right? The main borrower that's 51% or better on the operational agreement, the LLC setup, the articles, EIN, everything has to match up, can be the sole guarantor to that loan if there's other weak partners with weak credit, because rates and leverage is based on credit score in the asset-based lending space. So it's the parameters are 660 to 680, 680 to 700, 700 to 720, 720 to 740, 740 to 760, 760 to 780, 780 to 820, right? So there's categories of pricing and leverage allowability and debt service allowability to a project based on the partnership structure. So somebody that has weaker credit and has a lot of money, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but that's okay. That happens. And somebody has a lot, really great credit, but not the money. They can merge partnerships in an operational agreement through the LLC, but you have to have that transparent conversation with your lending source? Do they allow that? And then on the bridge side, more the fixed to rent, fixed to flip, and value add, the percentage of ownership must be under 20%, but I'm still going to want to see what that person's about that's at 19% ownership. I want to know who they are. I'm going to require data verify. I'm going to also require to see what their credit looks like, even though they're not going to be part of the guarantor of the loan. I still need to know who they are. The drape's got to be open, and I need to have complete transparency. You should be having these conversations preliminarily with your lender and your attorney and your CPA for what this impact's going to look like when it comes tax time based on the partnership ownership and how that's going to look like on that specific property. Bob, good morning. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to partnerships, the good, the bad, and horror stories in real estate. I'm sure, Bob, you're going to have a plethora of discussion.
You, Joe, ready for this one, Joe?
Yep.
Strap in.
I'm ready.
I'm going to go on a rant here.
Okay.
So my name's Bob. I help people set up corporations and LLCs. I'm not a lawyer, so this is not legal advice. Used to be a civil engineer back in the day. And I'm going to just lay it out for everybody because in 22 years of doing this, I have seen more businesses just implode because of bad partnerships. And they don't listen to the one piece of advice I give at the beginning whenever I set them up, or even when I'm doing a checkup on them. Nobody listens to this word. Get it in writing while you're still in the honeymoon phase and everyone loves each other. Make sure your operating agreement is up to date. It is written properly with respect to your business. When you work with a firm like mine, or another service company you find online or whatever, if they even give you an operating agreement template, the one you're going to get from a service company is going to be the bare minimum required by the state. You are not getting a customized one. Where do you get customized ones? You write them yourself or your lawyer writes them for you. They are living documents. You must follow them and keep them up to date because no one's going to look at them. No one's going to give a crap. And by the way, we could be talking about corporate bylaws, LP partnership agreements, all means the same thing in this context. You know who's going to look at them? The attorneys and the judges when you're standing in that courtroom because the partnership goes to hell or somebody did something wrong. And now all of a sudden you have to explain your actions to the judge, to the cross-examining attorney, who is going to tell you, you did not follow your own operating agreement. You did not follow your bylaws. You did not follow your partnership agreement. So guess what? You lose, kid. Judgment against you. I've seen businesses come down. I've seen personal fortunes wiped out when the corporate veil gets pierced because, again, people didn't pay attention to what they put in writing, if they put it in writing. And one other key element, and this is true in a lot of states, but I'm going to specifically cite Delaware because it happened in the Delaware Court of Chancery. In Delaware, and this is true in many other states as well, operating agreements may be written, oral, or implied. Now, here comes the problem with the oral or implied. If either party doesn't recognize the other person's claim on the oral and implied part, the judge will, the judge or the chancellors, as they call them in the Delaware Court of Chancery, has said, well, since you didn't put it in writing and you disagree on what you agreed on, I have no choice but to follow the state default rules. And nobody's going to win in that case. State default rules basically mean that the operating agreement or bylaws can override what's written into the law over how a dispute is settled. Take a careful look at the Limited Liability Company Act or corporate law of your state where you're incorporated. I guarantee you this stuff is spelled out there. You're not going to understand it. You're not going to want to understand it. You're going to want to get your own agreement in there to override it. This is what brings down businesses, brings down partnerships, brings down personal worth. And I'm sad to say, in a few cases, I've witnessed brings down some marriages too. So it's the number one thing. Get it in writing, keep it up to date, and follow it like the Bible. Joe, I'm ending my rant there. That was not intended as legal advice.
So, Bob, stay on mic, please. And it's almost a perfect storm because you and I have great conversations as I'm driving back from one event or another. And what's going to happen with all these individuals that are not re-upping their registration with you with an LLC, and they go to a lender and they think their LLC is legitimately up to date and they're not even protected by their registered agent? Where do you see the fallout there? And if there's partnerships that are limited or full general partners, they find and as they find out, what happens here? What's the fallout? What's the repercussions?
So a couple of factors can come into play here. If we're talking about people that are going out to get a loan and they did not maintain a registered agent or allow their annual reports to lapse, they will not be able to get a certificate of good standing. Now, here's what's happening to the clients that we are resigning as the agent from because they haven't paid their bills. And in some cases, we found they haven't even paid the state in multiple years. So we're not even offering a renewal to them because they're clearly not paying attention to the obligations. And frankly, they make us look bad to our own regulator when they don't follow the obligations, because we start to get questions, why do you have so many that aren't paying? Bottom line, when we were in this, again, most of our customers are Delaware. So this is why I'm going to explain Delaware. But if we went to Wyoming, Nevada, Texas, Pennsylvania, it's all going to be something similar. What's going to happen is when we resign as the agent, they will get a letter from the state. They have 30 days to act. They must pay all past due balances, clear all delinquencies to come back into good standing, and get a new registered agent in place. If that is not done in 30 days, Delaware voids the LLC. All liability transfers from the LLC to the partners. No limitations. It goes to them. Now, guess what happens? Let's say, Joe, you decide, something, I need to see 3 years after you do a loan or whatever, and I'm just going to make some numbers up here. You get suspicious for whatever reason, and you say, I need an updated certificate of good standing, and they don't produce one. You go on the state's website, and what do you see for the status? Void. You going to call that loan? There's no LLC to sue anymore. The loan's written on a company that doesn't exist. What are you going to do? You're probably going to try to collect from the owners. That would be my guess.
Well, yeah, if they're a guarantor, I'm going to go after them directly, right?
Exactly. So what happens is these people don't realize the fact that now they're taking the hits. And we've been called in to do depositions even a year or two after the company's voided, and they want to know, why weren't you watching out for them? And we will come in there with a printout of every email we sent them, a phone log every time we called them, and we will send every email, every letter. We also send them certificate of mailing, so we have proof that we mailed them from the post office, and we will show them the certificate that we submitted to the state that the state approved. Once the state stamps that document and gives it back to us, we're off the hook. That's it. As long as we follow the law. And by the way, the only thing we have to do is give 30 days notice we intend to resign. And technically speaking, we don't have to explain it. But we do the due diligence to make sure that people realize, oh shit, I'm not going to say the word, but you know where I'm going with that. I basically have had to tell people, sorry about your luck, but hope you didn't really like that house or that car that you bought, because you're not going to have it much longer when that lawsuit finishes. And I'm not just like talking out of my dupa here. I've seen it happen to people. And it simply comes down to somebody entrusted someone who didn't do their job. And that's how I've seen, like I said, partnerships have gone down the toilet. And when they cross over into the real world and into the personal world, because you took your corporate veil down knowingly or unknowingly, that ends a bunch of marriages, because now you've got a spouse trying to claim innocent spouse relief. Well, guess what? You jointly own that house. You're on the streets too. Sorry. This is just how it works. So that's why I keep saying, you've got to get everything in writing. You've got to follow it through, because otherwise you're just putting a hole in the corporate veil you can drive a tractor trailer through.
Thank you, Bob. I really appreciate that detail. And I know we have a upcoming potential podcast that we're going to educate our listeners on, the Creative Bird Strategy podcast and house, soon to come. What is that subject going to be so at least people can keep an eye out for it in the future?
It's going to be the Corporate Transparency Act, which took effect January 1st of this year, retroactively applying to any business that was in existence as of January 2nd, 2020 onward, that was actively in business, I should say. If it was inactive from January 1st, 2020 prior to, you don't have to act. You don't have to act on this. You can claim an exemption. But basically, the federal government, Congress has ordered FinCEN, which is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which is part of the law enforcement part of the U.S. Treasury that's tasked mostly with tracking terrorist funding and anti-money laundering. They are collecting a database of all non-regulated business entities in the United States. They want to know the names, home addresses, and photo IDs of every beneficial owner, which may be an actual owner or someone who has key significance over it. You cannot hide behind a trust with this. They will bust through the layers of the trust and get the information about the trustees. They want to have this information. They want to know where the records of the business are kept. So principal place of business is now legally defined under federal law. No more putting P.O. boxes or mailbox stores as an address, because the feds are watching this stuff now. And we're going to go over basically the details of what they're collecting, why they're collecting it, what you need to do to be compliant, and how long you could spend in federal prison should you not comply. This is not a joke. It is a national security law. It was passed as part of the National Defense Authorization Act of 2021. So watch for the podcast. It's going to scare the crap out of anyone who thinks that they can be anonymous with an LLC. The federal government just made sure you can't do that anymore.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you for the update. I appreciate that. Now, what can a partner bring to the table, right? Not all real estate partnerships are bad, and there can be times when a partner is needed. Let's discuss in a bullet point what I think would highlight partnerships: money, time, experience, network, financing, and labor. They all bring a very important part to the partnership and all justify a percentage of ownership. And that has to become very transparent when it comes to credit and liquid contribution. But there's also elbow grease that's brought into it, or somebody's network, or somebody's experience. As they call the individual, the gray hair individual that brings the experience to the deal, right? Or the debt or the equity. There's so many different moving parts to this discussion that could be good, bad, or horrific in all the stories in real estate. And the most common reason why a real estate partner is needed is typically money. So we need to shore that up and assure that money is going to be there when the time comes. Travis, good morning and welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning: partnerships, the good, the bad, and horror stories in real estate. Travis, are you there?
Hey, good morning, guys.
Morning.
Yeah. I know, man. It takes me a minute to get to my phone on mic. Yeah, so I'm Travis. I've got a real estate brokerage here in the Houston, Texas area. I've been investing in real estate since 2004 is when I really got going. And a lot of the investing I have done has been with partnerships with my family members, like my brothers. And I can say from experience that even though we set up LLCs and had operating agreements, I'm sure they're not as defined as they should be. Now knowing what I know and what I've experienced, through the years being partners with them, that there's definitely things that you don't think about when you're putting together your partnership to go buy property. And one of those is what you guys have already been discussing, is who's going to do what, and how involved are the partners going to be in the day-to-day process, or who's going to make decisions based on what the property needs. Is it going to be a joint decision, et cetera, et cetera? Is there going to be a lead partner and limited partners, or whatever. So I can definitely see and I've experienced the benefits of having everything documented, and I can understand why Bob has, probably pulled out his hair so many times when people go back to him and say, "Oh, this happened." He's like, "Man, I told you." you know, you got to have all this in writing in the beginning. It's kind of like a prenup. If you don't want someone taking all your assets, you better have a prenup before you get married. So, yeah, I mean, there's some horror stories that I've had myself with one of my brothers where, we sold the property and we didn't do a formal LLC. Maybe actually we did, but we never actually transferred title of the property to the LLC formally. And when we sold it, he just kept all the profit. Didn't give me my share, which, hey, you know what? He's my family. It's a shitty thing to do. He's going to have to live with that, but he's still my brother, so I have to forgive him and keep moving on. And just remember, it's only money, right? So, yeah, so I can understand your points, Joe, about partnerships are usually about money, but, money can be the root of all evils. And yeah, at the end of the day, are you friends with these people? Are they your family members? That's more important than anything, I think.
No, I agree with you.
So back to you.
Yeah, no, Travis, you hit some great points on the family friend side. Another thing that people don't think about is when they're flipping properties, the exit strategy if you don't flip the property. Like what happens? Like what's the exit strategy if somebody does not qualify for the deal on the back end and you have to hold the property? Nobody really talks about, oh, we're going to be flipping this property, making a lot of money together. I'm partnering with the GC, and they didn't do their due diligence on the GC, and their partnership was like put together with like lipstick and spit. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't really orchestrated with an attorney. I mean, it could get sticky. It can get real sticky. You need to have complete transparency. And I don't think people think deep enough on the flipping side or the rental property side how that partnership's going to look like long term. Like, Linda brought up a good point. She has fights and disputes and compromise with her business partner. Coincidentally, it's her husband. So what if these individuals are not your wife or your husband? They're just business individuals. They're going to think like business people, and they're going to think of what's in their pocket. So, as Bob was saying, during the dating time and the honeymooning time, everything needs to be documented with a legal professional. This is so important because that's where the highest failure rate is, because they didn't have good communication and good transparency skills with their legal team and their CPA and their bookkeeping services. Justin, good morning and welcome. Welcome back. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning. Partnerships, the good, the bad, and horror stories.
Hey, how you doing, Joe? Good morning, everybody. Just walking out of this good old church. But yeah, man, I definitely wanted to chime in real quick on the partnerships. I've experienced a couple of them in my little duration as an investor and doing deals and stuff like that. My experience, I'll be kind of brief because I've heard some really good stuff. I had to turn it off for a little bit, so I had to go back and listen. But anyways, my experience is people change sometimes, right? I think partnerships have to be very defined. Me being, I guess, a younger guy, and diving headfirst into some of my deals, right? I was one of my partnerships that recently ended that didn't go very well was one with one of my closest friends. So that partnership didn't go well because, I would say us as friends, right? And not that friends can't work well together, but friends sometimes they they aid and abet each other's problems, right? That they need to be corrected. So having defined goals and being willing to move on and act and follow the rules that you set forth in the beginning. I think everything in a partnership has to be extremely defined, right? We're becoming partners for a reason. And if this is a partnership, I have my roles that are going to make this deal work. You have your roles that are going to make this deal work. Right now, I'm in one on a flip. It's going extremely well. It's the quickest one I've ever done. I'm wrapping. I'll be done with the project in about 3 or 4 days, and I've only had the deal about 2.5, 3 weeks, or 3.5 weeks. So it's just one of those situations. Now I've learned a whole lot of lessons that I don't have. I won't take the rest of y'all's time today to go over all of my stuff, but I did want to share that one experience, and I have another experience where the partner the deal went bad, which I've spoken about this deal several times on here. But after the deal went bad, he just kind of like, oh, I don't know what to do with it, but we have other folks' money involved, and I'm fighting by myself to try to save everybody. So not just trying to make myself look like a good guy, because there are always decisions that we can make in the beginning or in the inner, or, in between, after, things start to go in a different direction, that can help us pivot and help us stay on the right track. So I think all of that needs to be written into your plan. Joe was just talking about your plan B. Let's say you plan to flip it. Is it going to be a good rent? Are you guys okay with renting it out for a year or however long it takes for you to sell and for you to move on? And so I think keeping a goal in mind, whether that's going on to another deal, whether it's taking the capital and shifting it into something else, or whether that's just knocking down one opportunity, I think you need to be very defined as to what your roles is, what each person is bringing to the table, and set in place some metrics to be able to hold them accountable to those things. And so that's just my thoughts on partnerships this morning, Joe. Thank you.
Justin, thank you. Justin has been part of the moderator panel here since the get-go. I always appreciate his input and insight. We met a couple of years ago, and we've stayed obviously close with discussions and masterminding and brainstorming in different opportunities. So thank you, Justin, for your insight on that. Let's get to our final thoughts. We'll start with Amy, because I know Amy has been a little chatty in the chat box. So let's get some final thoughts from Amy in regards to partnerships, the good, the bad, and horror stories in real estate.
Yeah, I've been a little chatty Cathy today. You're right. I just feel, I don't know. I just want to make sure. I don't know. I get up. So final thoughts. Operating agreements should be written by a lawyer. Make sure that you follow Bob's advice. Make sure that you get a background check or get a letter from the CPA on who you're dealing with. But also, and I talked about this the other day, don't invest your money in something that you don't understand. So a lot of people chase fads, right? So why would you go invest in, say, data center real estate if you don't understand the underlying user industry of how data centers work, right? So why would you chase a fad like that? And I'll tell you, a lot of people do. Or they'll be like, everybody's investing in industrial real estate, so I got to get into industrial, and they don't understand the fundamental dynamics underlying that, how that asset's going to perform, or whether the tenant's going to get up and walk, or how the property management company has to perform, or any of those great things. So just make sure that, yes, check about the partnership, check on everything, but make sure that what whoever is leading the investment decision also has a really good understanding, but you too have a good understanding of what that investment is. So that would be my other half a nickel. So you got a full nickel out of me today. So there you go.
See, I appreciate that, Amy. Bob, your final thoughts to partnerships, the good, the bad, and horror stories in real estate.
Everyone shared a lot of really great stuff today, a lot of great tips, experiences, and everything. Really mirrors what I've seen, not just in real estate, but all kinds of businesses. Not all the businesses I do are real estate related. In fact, most are not, actually. But just like I said, the key thing, get it in writing always. Everyone signs it. One question I get, and I was thinking about this as just as Amy was talking, somebody asked if you should have a witness sign it or a notary sign it. I'll just say this: it can't hurt if you have a neutral party, but it's not legally required. At least I'm not aware of any state where it would be. But yeah, I also am a notary in Delaware, and I've been asked to notarize operating agreements when the partner signed it in person. So it's an option that's out there if you want to do things like that, just to keep a neutral copy. That way, it's on file with the notary. Just all different tips and tricks to think of, but most importantly, do your homework with whomever you're working with. You have to know who you're working with and that they're not out there. I don't want to say they're out there to get you, but sometimes people, they don't understand what they don't realize they don't know. And if I could make that any wordier, I would. But the point being, make sure it's all, just coming back to the same thing, get it in writing. I cannot emphasize any more than that. And again, nothing I said was intended as legal advice. Thank you for an excellent room, Joe, and team on the stage. Back to you.
Thank you, Bob. Ellis, I know you came up last minute. Final thought to our discussion this morning on partnerships, the good, the bad, the horror stories in real estate.
Thanks, Joseph. Yeah, I was listening in most of the time, but I think one of the biggest problems with partnerships is it becomes too premature. They rush into it too quickly. And I put this in the chat that I have gravitated toward using more of an equity participation note structure versus partnerships early on because it's just cleaner. In many cases, one person is supplying the expertise, the other person is supplying the money, and it just makes it much cleaner as far as control and any disputes. So I gravitate toward that. But all the advice given by getting it in writing, making sure there are clear guidelines and expectations. I think each member of that partnership should have their own legal representation in order to hammer out something that works. And then, a good attorney is going to bring up possible conflicts that could happen. And you address that from the get-go, much like I think of it as pre-marriage counseling in a lot of ways, because, there's a lot of starry-eyed hopes, right, when you first start out with a joint venture or a partnership. And it's not until you really get into the thick of it where sometimes the bloom is off the rose. So you want to hammer that stuff out very early. But great room, great topic, Joseph, as always. And thanks for everybody that contributed.
Thank you, Ellis. We're here every Saturday and Sunday morning. Saturday mornings, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to thank our sponsors, Realty 411 with Linda, MB Capital, your referral program for unsecured business lines of credit, Landmark Capital, your asset-based lending, debt service coverage ratio, fixed to rent, fixed to flip lender in new construction as well. And I'd like to thank Perkatech, Yardell Perkins, our social media strategist, our Oz behind the drape that provides this partnership in providing insight every weekend through the Creative Bird Strategy House, as well as the Creative Bird Strategy podcast, which we have our own site, creativebirdstrategies.com. We provide CE courses on asset-based lending and soon wholesaling real estate for licensed real estate agents throughout the country. We also provide educational worksheets for our followers and listeners in regards to better underwriting your deals from a single family to a large multifamily opportunity. So my quote this morning, what's attractive? Effort, thoughtfulness, appreciation, compassion, honesty, and respect. Everybody have a blessed Sunday. Have a great week. We'll be back here next week, and I'll be ending the room in the next 30 seconds.